All right, so I've added a few muscles, I think, to your group. That first set of muscles that was handed out, they had all of those listed on there. Said that was going to be a really good start. I figured there'd be some additions to it, and here are some. Some of these actually might be on your paper, but this says supinator, brachioradialis. Then these are flexor muscles, okay? And of course, when you say flexor digitorum, what's referring to is if it's flexing your fingers, which it does, okay, it's not going to be found on the backside. It's going to be found up here, and you can actually see that moving underneath your skin, okay? Now, all three of these are probably working at the same time, since this means, of course, digits, so flexor digitorum. And then this is telling you where those are. These are three separate muscles, these flexor digitorum, carpi ulnaris, and carpi radialis. And then just one set on the back side, the extensor digitorum. Because it gets to be pretty detailed on there. But again, we want you to have a really good head start for the next time that you come across this in college, which is going to be quite extensive. So hopefully we've laid a really good groundwork for you with a nice wide foundation so that we're actually set and ready to go with this content. And you can find these muscles in your book on page 325 and 326, okay? That's where a lot of these are found, okay? So 325 to 326 on your book. Okay, so I found a diagram I think that we could say would be quite helpful, and what that would be is as follows. I think it got pulled up on my computer because I know we're doing the best that we can as far as trying to move forward and getting you the needed content or information. But I know I said the next time that we have you in class, we thought maybe Friday. Of course, we don't know. That's up in the air yet. We will not have your next evaluation the next time I see you, even if it is tomorrow, okay? As much as I don't like evaluations on Monday, we really don't have a choice. But what that means is I want to have one session together to where you've had an introduction to this, and then we can proceed forward. And then if it's on Monday, that's something that we're going to have to we're going to have to bear at that time. So here's some content that hopefully will help point us into the right direction. So kind of as a review on everything that we've done so far, and I think it's this guy here. Okay, so I think I had this in a separate file, so it's kind of a review, and notice it doesn't have any of the, it's just pointing to muscles rather than asking what they actually are. Okay, so with this, okay, some of these muscles that are on your group, I want you to think about, okay, what is this one? Does that show up on? Yeah, you can see that. Okay. Then this one. We don't need to know that. That will be in the cat. That's actually your levator scapular ventralis. Excuse me. And then this one. And then I think we want to go with this one and this one. Okay, I think we'll stop there for now. Of course, this is just the name of a bone there. Same with this one, and then of course this large one. Okay, so take a couple moments. I'm just going to hit pause, and then give you a little bit of time. Okay, so now that we've had that amount of time, okay, we'll just go right on down the line here. Okay, this is your trapezius muscle. And remember, one of the things that we had said, some of these we want you to know the origin, insertion, and action. And as we look at it, it's actually quite a large muscle that you can see. And when we look at this, okay, it's hard to visualize this actually inserting on the clavicle muscle, but it does. But remember the example we gave, there's cartilage in between this joint here, so it can actually move, but when you're looking at the sternocleidomastoid, that's up here in front, and that's not what's doing the moving. It's actually your head, okay? So with that, we have the origin here on your thoracic cervical vertebrae, inserts on the clavicle, and inserts up here on the occipital condyle of your head. If you remember, when we, I think maybe it was facet of occipital condyle, when we held them skulls on that occipital condyle, there's some bumps on the back, and the reason for that is your osteoblasts, if you remember, those are your bone building cells. They're actually putting them grooves or those bumps up on your occipital bone there, and that's what this muscle is attaching to. So here's your trapezius, okay? And as we know, it's your muscle of indecision, because it's one that actually raises your shoulders and it allows you to shrug your shoulders. Here's another one, the deltoid, okay? It actually originates on the scapula, okay? So that's what we're looking at right here. And what you can't see, because the deltoid has been removed on this side, it's actually originating right on the spine of that scapula, okay? That's why that bone looks the way it does, because the deltoid is originating on there and then actually inserting down here on your deltoid tuberosity, on your humerus, okay? Then going all the way across here, okay? I'm trying to, this might actually be the rhomboid minor. Okay, I was thinking it was the levator scapular ventralis, but I think I'm going to put an X there, and we'll get a little bit of that clarification when we're back together. Okay, but I know this is the rhomboid major, and then this is the rhomboid minor. And this is one of them examples where we say that even though this is below that muscle, okay, because it's different on the anterior side, your pectoralis major, okay, is actually on top of your pectoralis minor. But in this case, this is actually below the rhomboid minor, because the reason it gets the major name is just because, look at the size of that, okay? So rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, okay? And this is one of the muscles that we said you're paddling that crick, paddling the crick, yeah. I'm sure that's gonna work really well. Taking your paddle to move up the crick, okay? And then this is your latissimus dorsi right here. And then we actually have, and you can't see this because this muscle's in the way, okay? This one's smaller than this one, and that makes this the teres major. This one is the teres minor. And one of the things I should have done is I think we're gonna add these two as well, this one and this one, just because those are actually on the cat as well. And what that means is this one is on top. It's called the supraspinatus because it's above the spine of the scapula. So hopefully that's a good way of recognizing that, because when we dissect the cats, that's one of the clues that we give, is because they also have a scapula as well. They also have this same type of structure on there as well. You can actually tap it on there and hear that bone tissue, and you're actually tapping on this. So supraspinatus because it's on top, and then infraspinatus because it's on the bottom, okay? So, and I understand, it can be confusing when you look at this. This is below, so it's infraspinatus, and this one's on top, so it's supraspinatus. Here, even though this muscle is below, it's called the rhomboid major because it's larger. But sometimes that same type of analogy or logic doesn't transfer to, you could say, where it's located or the size of it, okay? It's just whether it's Latin terms, where you get those names, rhomboid and supraspinatus. I think rhomboid it does, because I think if my geometry is right, I think that's a rhomboid structure, one where the angles on that four-sided figure are, I don't know, less than, well, they got to add up to 360, so however that happens, I'm not a geometrical person, but that's why this muscle gets the name that it does. Okay, so let's move on to perhaps another diagram that we can possibly use to help us out. And let's see here. Oh yeah. Okay. So when we look at this one, because remember some of these that you had in group 1 are going to be on group 2 as a review as well. And this is an example of that. This isn't the one that you're going to see, but certainly an example that we're trying to illustrate then. Okay, so if we wanted to name some muscles on here, let's go ahead and do that one, this one, this one, this one, that one, and that one. So go ahead and take a moment, and I'll be right back. Okay, because I had to go fill this up because I got to do my weightlifting as well. I've done this in class before. Okay, better switch hands, better work this one. Got to keep warm too, you know. All right, so as we go through here, okay, this one starts with a B. Okay, yep, that's your buccinator. And notice here's the zygomatic bone right here, so that makes this the zygomaticus. Okay, Latin for circle is orbicularis. So is that the oris or the oculi? Well, that's the orbicularis or orbicularis oculi. Here's your frontalis, your temporalis, your masseter muscle, and then here's your sternocleidomastoid. And notice down here, what you can't see, this muscle is attaching to your sternum and your clavicle right here. Then behind here is your mastoid process of your temporal bone. Okay, that was one of the muscles known the origin, insertion, and action. Okay, here's another one, your masseter muscle. So the origin is up here on your zygomatic bone, and then down here the insertion is actually on the mandible, so that closes the jaw. And then if I remember right, this was the platysma muscle, and that would be one that's responsible for opening the jaw, and then masseter would be closing the jaw. Okay, and I need to wrap this up here pretty quick because the snowplow just went by. So I just want to take a quick gander at what we see here, and then we can move forward. Okay, and wrap this up for today because we're up to 13 minutes. Okay, so we've seen a diagram like this before, okay, and it's probably a little tough to see, but when we look down here, it's easy to get the brachialis mixed up with that of down in the, I believe this is the supinator down here. We added that, okay? And then this is one of your flexor muscles of your forearm, I believe. And then this here is your brachialis, okay? And the reason that it's easy to get them confused because if you have a brachialis and a brachiradialis, well then that means that's got to be further down in your forearm, the brachial radialis, okay? Then we've got your biceps brachii here, and then of course pectoralis major and the deltoid, and then as we're going over here, if we remember, we've got the teres major, teres minor. Which one of these is the infraspinatus and which one of those is the supraspinatus? Okay. Your clue is, of course, this spine here of the scapula, infraspinatus, supraspinatus. And then if I actually had this on here, remember there's this muscle here that we said kind of looks like a rhombus. So that makes that the rhomboidus major, and then the rhomboidus minor is somewhere located in that vicinity. Okay, and of course then your latissimus dorsi, and then this is the back side, so that makes this, of course, the triceps brachii muscle. Okay, so I just want to add to our list of what we had for muscles for names and origins and insertions. So I'll do that here right shortly. Okay, I think I typed this up prior to today, and notice that some of these we had gone over yesterday. I'm trying to enlarge this so we can actually see that. So muscles to know origin, insertion, and action. Yesterday we went over the masseter, the temporalis, sternocleidomastoid, the deltoid, and then trapezial muscle. Okay, and then their next 5. Okay, knowing what these muscles actually do is really going to help you out on what they're where they're originating and where they are actually inserting. So even if we didn't see where these were classified, we know that even for, again, your rectus femoris, okay? Femoris is telling you somewhere it's located in the body, of course, around the femur bone. And notice that's not in any of these. If we know the rectus femoris is a muscle that flexes the thigh, that means that's going to bend your knee, because that's what we mean by flexion here. If we know this is what it does, okay, well then of these two, which one of these would actually do the moving? Is it going to be your pelvic area or is it your tibia? Okay, so since this inserts on the tibia, it's going to decrease that angle, allows you to flex your leg. In other words, your knee is flexing at that joint. So then that means, of course, origin insertion then. Okay, so we've got, which one? Okay, the ilium of the pelvic area, because remember there's 3 bones there. The ilium, the ischium, and then the ischial tuberosity. So the ilium is the very top that has that big crest on it, okay? Because you had that iliac crest, that was one of the identifications in the skeletal system as well. So rectus femoris originates on the ilium, inserts on the tibia, flexes the thigh, okay? And then when we look at one of your abdominal muscles, okay, it compresses the abdomen, okay? In other words, it flexes your trunk. So when you're doing sit-ups, which I absolutely hate doing, I've never been good at sit-ups, and it probably shows, I don't know. So when we say compresses the abdomen or flexes the trunk, that means you're actually doing one of these crunches where you're bending over like this, where you're doing your sit-ups, if you want to call it that. Okay, so it's called the ossa coxae. That's, of course, going to be down in your lower abdomen here, or in your pelvic area. Then it extends all the way up to your ribs. Okay, so here's the insertion, here's the origin, the name of the muscle, and it flexes the trunk or allows you to do sit-ups by compressing the abdomen. Okay, biceps brachii, this means it's got 2, you could say it's actually got 2 origins and it's got 2 insertions. That's why it's called the biceps, but we don't need to know the 2 origins and the 2 insertions. Just know that it originates on the scapula, okay, inserts on the radius, and flexes the arm. Again, if you look at the muscle and you know what it does, flexes arm, you got a pretty good indication on where that's going to originate and where that's going to insert. Of course, if you have if this flexes the arm, well then the opposite action is extending the arm. Okay, actually originates on the same area. Okay, scapula, but inserts on the ulna then, so it extends your arm. Okay, rectus femoris, we just went over that. That's actually one of your hamstring group muscles, because there are 3 muscles within the hamstring. Okay, this is one of them, and here is another one. Oh, I got that wrong. Your semitendinosus and semimembranosus and biceps femoris are your hamstring. Okay, so the rectus femoris is when we say flexes the thigh. Okay, that's up in your, of course, in your femoral area, and this actually flexes the leg. This is what actually bends at the knee. Okay. So when you say flexes the thigh, it's actually extending your leg. That's probably what we should put on there instead. But these identifications, this is not part of the diagrams that we had seen like this. These are two, come on here. These are two totally different concepts. This is separate from this because this is more so associated with vocabulary and general questions. Okay, so I'm going to try to get it to where all of these are on there, and I think there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if we go up to that, we did the trapezius yesterday. Okay, so you may have to hit pause, and you can get the rest of that content in there. Again, no evaluation tomorrow, even if we are in class. Okay, so unfortunately, and even if we don't have class tomorrow, I want to have one day to go over this. So I know I said Monday earlier, but I just want to have one in-class session where we can review these. So if we are in class tomorrow, we can review it. Evaluation on Monday. If we don't have class tomorrow, okay, which means it'll be Monday when we're back together, then the next evaluation is on Tuesday. All right, that's all I have. We'll catch up to you next time.